I'm Doug. I'm one of the Micro Center knowledge experts, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about battery backups. Now, these aren't something every computer needs. If you have a laptop and you keep your battery charged, when the power goes out, you just keep right on working and maybe laugh a little at people who have just lost their monitors and desktop computers. On the other hand, if you're a person who does serious work on your computer and it's a desktop, if you've been working for hours on a report or a thesis and suddenly the power goes out and you go, oh no, I forgot to save, you may want to be a person who has a battery backup. For that matter, if you happen to be in a place where power failures are a bit more frequent than they are in most. My first introduction to this was when my son was off at college, and every afternoon thunderstorms would roll through and the power would blink off. Not for long, just long enough to be annoying. That's when he and I both learned about battery backups. The basic idea is that even with the power gone, you have a battery that can keep your computer and your monitor and perhaps a few other things running so that you can continue to work, or at the very least you can click on save your work, and shut it down peacefully and wait for the lights to come back. If you decide you're one of the people who needs a battery backup, the first thing you need to do really is to decide just exactly what you need to keep running. Now, if you look at the desk behind you here, there's one computer, another computer, a monitor, printer, speakers, backup hard drive, a lot of things, telephone. You may not need to keep all of those running in the event of a power failure. Basics, you probably need to keep the computer you're using running and the monitor you're using. That would also pretty much make sure your keyboard and mouse are working. Do you need speakers? Probably not. Do you need your backup drive to be running? Well, that gets more complicated. If you happen to let your backups run in the middle of the night like I do, you want to make sure they keep running even if there's a power failure. Or at the very least, you want to make sure that everything exits gracefully and shuts down, even if you're not there. Probably the primary consideration, once you know what it is you want to keep running, is how much power does it take to do that. And there's a handy little device that will actually give you an accurate number. The basic idea is you plug this into the wall, plug your surge protector into it, plug in all the devices you need to keep powered, turn them on, and look at the screen and find out how much power it takes to run them. Now, you want to be conservative. If you buy a 500 watt capability battery backup and you're running a full 500 watts, be aware that you aren't going to have a lot of extra time. A typical battery backup might keep your computer system running for 10 minutes. If you add a few devices, or if the power goes out once, comes back on, and then goes out again before the battery is charged, you need to have a little margin for error. I generally would say you need to aim for at least 20% headroom. Battery backups come in a huge range of sizes, all the way from little tiny 350 watt ones, all the way up to 1500 watt ones that can keep a server running. Battery backup units tend not to be very exciting looking things. So, in this particular case, down amongst the dust and dirt on the floor, there's a plain box with a light on the front and a switch, and on the back a bunch of power cables sticking out. Not very much to get excited about in terms of looks, which is why they generally end up on the floor, or in this case on top of my subwoofer. Battery backup units generally come with a USB interface which you can connect to your computer. When the battery backup system detects that the power has failed, it will, after a period of time that you can configure, shut down your computer by turning off all of the current applications, saving all of your data, and in addition, keeping a record of what it's actually done. In this case, in the last 24 weeks, it hasn't done anything in the last, just over 2 months. It shut off at about 12 minutes of 1 on June 25th. It has seen 5 blackouts in the last 24 weeks, total time on battery of 13 minutes. It's had an overvoltage condition that lasted 20 seconds and a noise problem that lasted 5 seconds. And at the moment, it can provide a total of 19 minutes of battery time. If you think there's any possibility that your power might fail more than once, you might want to push it quite to that 19-minute limit. Perhaps half that, and then if the power goes off, then comes back on but doesn't stay on long enough to charge the battery, you're not going to be in trouble the next time when the power goes off. There's very little that you need to do in terms of maintenance or troubleshooting on a battery backup system. They generally do a self-test once a month. If it should fail, it'll pop up a message on your screen to tell you it failed. Personally, I tend to like doing the direct approach. So when I initially installed and set up mine, I reached down by the floor there and yanked the cord out of the wall and watched to see what happens. And everything behaved according to plan. It did indeed last the nearly 20 minutes that it said it would. I actually shut it down before that just to be on the safe side. And then did it again to make sure that it actually shut down the way it was supposed to. The only lifetime issue that most people are going to run into is that it is a sealed lead acid battery and they don't last forever. Over time they hold a less and less charge. So after you've owned one for several years, you may find that you've gone from 20 minutes of uptime on the battery down to 10 minutes or maybe only 5 minutes. When it starts looking dangerously close, it's probably time to get a new battery. These batteries can be obtained from the manufacturer, or if you pull the battery out and check the actual manufacturer of the battery, you may be able to obtain one a bit more locally. And that's basically about it. Hope you won't have too many power failures.